Hi, I'm David with EV World News, talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
I am back, ready to talk EVs.
Good, good. Well, sadly, I don't have a lot of actual EV articles today. It really
You
was.
know, I was thinking about that the other day, and every once in a while, it's like there's just not any EV news. I mean, it's not exciting. There's no new breakthroughs. Nobody has mergers and acquisitions or new models to announce. It's just
Well,
cars.
and also the fact I do a show on Tuesday and Friday with Bill, and we get an awful lot of just possibilities.
Wow, there's only so many articles. Like Tesla sales projections off by 0.34%. You know, those that's it's only so many of those you can talk through.
Was kind of an interesting article. Google and Tesla think we're managing the electrical grid all wrong.
Okay.
And so their feelings, they're arguing the electrical grid is being underutilized, and they want everyone, especially politicians, to know it. The three companies involved are HVAC giant Carrier, virtual power plant company Renew Home, distributed energy resource developer Spark Fund, and a smart electrical panel startup called Span founded a new group called Utilize to get that message across. Now, the group argues that smarter ways to use the capacity exist. Utilize name checks a number of those solutions, including battery storage, demand response, and virtual power plants, all of which have emerged en masse over the last decade but remain underutilized. So I guess that's where they're saying these virtual power plants. I mean, we already looked. Have you seen where like California already had their solar? You know, when you sell solar to the grid, they
Mhm.
cut it from like 30 cents a kilowatt hour
Yep.
to 8.
Yeah, yeah, they just passed that last fall. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean that you think about that. All these people that thought they were, really their solar was paying for itself,
Mhm. Now,
and
I need to follow up. You might be grandfathered in on those because it's called there's a version one or version two, and this new one I think is called the version three, and that's where it. So I think if you're one of the old ones, you might be grandfathered in. I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, it seems like their main argument is that battery storage has really helped Texas. So during recent cold snaps, battery storage has kicked in and really helped them get through some of the issues that they'd had a few years ago with that big ice storm or whatever that was so catastrophic. And, you know, we know Tesla sells both batteries and solar panels. Um, yeah, it just more of an argument that there needs to be a lot of more use of,
Yeah,
selling more
and
energy
like what
back into
what
the
they're
grid.
saying is correct, but it's just a little disingenuous because it's you read the companies that are doing that, and it's one like yes, we want the grid to go here. It's the federal government has said it, utilities have said it, regulators have said it. Everybody says this is the way the grid should be planned and operated. However, you need physical equipment in everyone's house, and that's one of them's a smart panel developer. You bet. Like that's where we need to see most importantly, you need communications, and that's the limiting factor right now for implementing a lot of these things. You need that they call like the last mile of communication. Like you need to be able to get into somebody's house behind the meter, and that's really difficult.
Yep.
It's not open. You need to figure out how to do it. I mean, are the challenges out there? So yes, like what they are saying, 100% correct. Should we be operating the grid differently? Yes, and we want to. However, we don't have the equipment in place to do it, or most importantly, we don't have the comms in place to do it right now.
So the big news headline I started with is a new Texas oil refinery. So Brownsville, Texas is getting the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years. Other ones have been, they've had work done to them, but this one is a completely new one. It's a $300 billion Texas project. I cannot imagine $300 billion going into a single facility for anything. When we talk about nuclear, we don't talk about
You
those
don't talk
numbers.
about that, and even like an aircraft carrier, right? I mean, battleship. I don't think those cost that.
No, no. Yeah, 300 billion. But here's where it gets a little crazy. So the biggest energy company in India is called Reliance Energy. It's part of
Is it
Adani.
private owned or is it state owned?
It's Adani. Adani's a billionaire from over there. He was the one who was indicted last year for various. He was doing things the United States deemed as being illegal in the energy space. I think it was mainly related to like buying Russian oil.
Okay.
And then he was pardoned by the Trump government and by the Trump administration. I think is what it was. And then next thing you know, they're catching their oil tankers docking in Iran and turning off their transponders. So, anyways, but that's just a little background there. I have nothing against Reliance Energy. I even reached out to their lawyer this morning based on this story to see if he had been part of this deal, and he actually didn't even know about it. So that was kind of surprising because I'm familiar with I'm friends with one of their lawyers in DC for these guys. They've offered a couple times to introduce me, to the top people with Reliance to do deals in India. But anyways, so Reliance Energy is they haven't disclosed how much of that 300 billion is coming from Reliance, but it's an Indian deal on U.S. oil refinery. And I find this really, fascinating. Trump called it the biggest in U.S. history, a major boost for American energy production. And, Reliance is owned by the Ambanis. Oh, well, then maybe Reliance is a little cleaner. But I know that the lawyer I deal with is affiliated with both. So, anyways, so Mukesh Ambani runs Reliance Industries. I think he's the CEO. I believe that Adani is the largest owner in Reliance.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyways, what he was just saying there. Yeah. But Mukesh Ambani, that Yogi mentioned in the chat, says that Reliance Industries will partner in building the first new oil refinery in the United States in 50 years. Now, I get this from the India Times. Okay, so
I have not, I was just looking at basic headlines this morning, and I did not see that come up. So maybe news is still coming over here.
Well, but I think it's U.S. news. I saw it other places as well, but I chose to take it because I got an email. I got an email from the Economic Times that's part of the India Times, and because their Economic Times is mostly energy news. So anyways,
I can't believe we haven't built a domestic oil refinery in 50 years.
Isn't that crazy?
I can't believe it. I mean, unless 50 years ago we just built at such a high capacity, or
it's just such a big dollar amount. Now here's one of the interesting claims. It's not just the biggest in U.S. industry. Trump said he thanks our partners in India and the largest privately held energy company, Reliance, for this tremendous investment. Reliance hasn't actually confirmed Trump's claim, but the company's shares went up 2% for Reliance Industries. One of the interesting things Trump said was a new refinery at the Port of Brownsville will fuel U.S. market, strengthen our national security, boost American energy production, deliver billions of dollars in economic impact, and it'll be the cleanest oil refinery in the world, whatever that means.
At a minimum, in Texas, it's probably going to get a heck of a lot be powered by wind power, and things like that. So that's a piece of it. But I imagine the latest environmental controls and standards and everything like that. But
maybe that's why it's 300 billion.
Maybe that's why it's 300 billion.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I have more Texas news, and it's just funny that was what kind of came about. But I thought that was a pretty big deal because I'm sure it's going to create tens of thousands of jobs.
Oh God, yes. And
those would be high-paying jobs, even as much as on this channel we generally hate the oil industry, or at least we try to.
I've got with that price tag and that much production. That's tens of thousands of jobs if you're staffing that thing.
I have so many calls with people, and they're talking about their solar AI project. And it's like, okay, well, let's call it that. We'll call it the 10% solar AI project. It's like, well, what is the real 90% of the energy going into that project? We won't mention that here, but it's not solar, but solar's a nice add-on. But everybody does it, right?
Yep.
Everybody has some solar
We're
and battery
don't
storage.
discourage it. We want it, but.
Yeah. Everybody's got this off-grid AI plan. It's solar plus battery storage plus 3 letters. And those 3 letters are 90% of the power.
And that's,
So,
yep.
Yeah. And if you know what those 3 letters are, you can put it in the chat, but we won't say it on here. Anyways, so
it's an acronym. We'll give you that.
A gold star. Yeah. Nuclear power expansion in Texas. Texas is the nation's leading SMR testing ground with a $350 million state fund. Now, well, this was something else that came up. This wasn't part of this, but Japan recently announced they're investing $500 billion in the United States in manufacturing. 100 billion of that is committed to nuclear.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That came out a couple days ago. And
I mean, they have a vested interest in it.
I mean, 100 billion. I mean, that is a big number. Yeah, Japan loves nuclear, don't they? You can go with that anywhere you want, right? But Texas has become the main U.S. proving ground for SMRs in less than 3 years since Governor Abbott created the Advanced Nuclear Reactor Working Group in August of 23. The state legislature passed a law in June of 25 establishing a $350 million Texas Nuclear Development Fund, the largest state-level nuclear commitment in the country. Multiple projects using different technologies are now moving beyond studies to actual construction. Now, the $350 million sounds like a big number, right? I happen to know how much Texas spends annually on road construction. Okay, it's a big number. It's $5 billion.
No.
Yeah.
$5 billion?
Roads and bridges in Texas. Yeah, because I've helped people bid on projects in that state. That is how much they bid out every year is $5 billion.
Wow.
Even some of your smaller states, I bet Nebraska is 500 million.
Probably. I mean, we're a big state. I mean,
yeah, we're a big state, but we don't have a lot of cars come through.
No, a lot of traffic. Just a lot of
traffic. We just have a big state. There's a lot of land. Yeah. So to put that in perspective, 350 million versus 5 billion for road repairs doesn't sound like such a big deal, does it? But anyways, it gets all in how you frame it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's compared to what everybody else is doing. It's quite a bit.
But considering that's a state,
yeah,
that's a big number.
That's a huge number from the state, and then pile federal dollars in on top of that, and yeah, you got yourself a stack of change.
Let's see. So the University of Texas Bureau of Business Research estimates, they estimate that average demand on the ERCOT grid could nearly triple by 2050, driven by AI data centers. They always throw electric vehicles in there, and electrification of Permian Basin oil fields. Currently, Texas gets 45% from natural gas, 24% wind, 14% coal, 9% nuclear, and 7% solar. I guess I would have assumed solar was bigger.
It's got to be taken off. It's got to be taken off. But it's West Texas is just covered in wind. Yeah. They've been filled in. I mean, they're the national leader by far, I believe. But yeah, they've got a lot of wind in Texas. So it's like with everybody else, solar's playing catch up, but it's getting there.
Texas sees nuclear as essential to provide 24/7 baseload power as the grid adds 200 to 300 gigawatts of load over the coming decades, something intermittent renewables alone can't handle.
Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine them producing that many gigawatts.
No, and it's at the point anymore where do we just need to collectively say, like, we can't do that? Like, that's too much. Yeah. In Texas, it's too much. Like, let's slow down a little bit. Let's rethink this a little bit. That's too much power. So
folks watching, this is David's brain energy math. One nuclear cooling tower equals 1 gigawatt, roughly. That for easy math. So 200 to 300 cooling towers. But we don't expect that to all be nuclear. I would say of those 200 to 300, they're probably going to target like 40 or 50 of that to probably be nuclear.
Yeah, but still, dang, that's
Yeah, that's a lot of
it's
power.
so much. It is so much, and that's I'm aging myself anymore. But when I started in this industry 20 years ago,
Mhm.
like 2 megawatts would have been a big project. That's 2 to 5 megawatts. That's a manufacturer coming into town. That is a big deal. So now we're talking in terms of gigawatts at a single
Right.
location. It's unfathomable how much load that actually is, and how much power demand that is.
How much power the United States uses?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I'd be curious what the statistic is of all the world's electrical, how much is consumed by the United States. I mean, it's
I
got to
don't
be,
know that we could find that. I bet that's out there.
I'm sure it is.
I bet the IEA's got all that stuff.
Let's see. So the first industrial SMR could power Dow chemical plant by early 2030s. X Energy, backed by $1.2 billion from the DOE's Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program, plans to build 4 80-megawatt reactors at Dow Chemical's Seadrift plant on the Texas coast. This will be the first commercial-scale SMR deployment in the U.S., expected to start producing power for the plant and sending excess electricity to the grid in the early 2030s. Now, I noticed they're being really vague. This is a huge milestone. No SMR has reached commercial operation in the U.S. yet. When I talk to folks, I'm so vague. Vague about what a real timeline is, because I don't know. I mean, I was speaking to somebody about fusion, and it's like, yeah, but fusion's still decades away, and it's like, well, these companies keep saying it's going to be in the next by 2030,
Yeah.
2031, and like, there's no way.
No
There's no
way.
supply chain.
There's no way. I mean, you would have a hell of a time building a coal plant, by 2031 if you started today. That kind of thing. It's just, and it's supply chain, and it's all of the things in procurement and construction, and with those type of technologies, it's just you couldn't do it.
So I went to visit a friend's facility in Florida for part of a commercial site we're developing, and he runs his stone distribution, and he's saying, yeah, this used to be a steel plant, and it's like 3 generations of people in that town used to work at that steel plant. It's shut down. He bought it and he converted it to granite countertop distribution, and he brings in the slabs from Brazil and distributes them from there. And I'm like, you got a steel plant? That means you have some really big transformers around here. You could really pump some data. He goes, I was thinking about mining Bitcoin in the office. Like, well, yeah, but I'm like, we can do a lot more serious about it, because I've had somebody in the waste to energy space wanting to do something nearby there, and I'm trying to help them out. And it's funny because I'm like, hey, and I found a data center interested in buying that energy.
And buying the output.
Yeah. And I'm like, we've got serious power transmission here, at least at our site. It's like, it might as well be doing something with it. It's a shame to let that go, because
it's scarce. I mean, that's scarcity in the industry right now. If you have a spot that already has its carve out of how much power it has in the facilities, like that's it. There's not many of those left.
Yeah, a Bitcoin mining facility could have just went right in there and used that infrastructure. It's just so funny that he's got that. And it's like, well, I'm thinking he's talking about like 100 rigs or something like that. We're not talking like bringing in thousands and shipping containers and stuff like that.
No, just for fun. I mean, have it humming,
but yeah, it was just kind of funny. It's like, man, you could really power some serious industry right here. You could put a data center on this site with this, and you'd already have a lot of the infrastructure in place. What's interesting more is that we have a CSX railroad junction, and I couldn't tell you how many calls I get from people wanting to know about using that railhead for something.
Rail.
Apparently that's not that easy to get. So anyways, another company, Natura Resources, is building the nation's first advanced liquid fuel research reactors in 40 years at Abilene Christian University, with 240 million in funding, 120 million private, and 120 million from the Texas legislature. Their molten salt reactor, I got bad news for them. Design doesn't just generate 100 megawatts of electricity. The waste heat can drive thermal desalination systems to treat contaminated water from the Permian Basin oil operations. The research reactor claims to be operational by end of 26 or 27. This dual use capability is perfect. But what do they not have to make molten salt? Lithium-7. Who do they have to buy lithium-7 from?
One of two
dude
places.
that runs Russia, and he says no. So I don't know. Unless that war ends sometime soon, that's not happening. Okay. You know, and it's not that I try to just crap on everybody's ideas. It's just I really, well, we've learned in the energy space to look at everything with skepticism.
Yep.
You know,
you have to, and it's that entire supply chain. And I mean, you can trace it back, and this is a great idea, but like there's a gap to get you to the final space in that, and it's just how. I haven't heard an answer of how. I mean, if that's not commercially available right now.
Everybody trying to do the molten salt Gen 4 reactor designs is suffering from this whole problem where Russia cut off the supply chain, and nothing they can do about it.
Yeah,
they're just stuck. Let me see. So cost challenge remains. Nuclear needs to be 3 million per megawatt or below to compete in the Texas market. Now I've noticed in modeling, SMRs are expected to cost like 3.9 million per megawatt.
Yeah, cost,
for construction is currently estimates. Here on what I pulled up, as current industry projections range from 2.9 million to 10.1 million per megawatt. Now, if you were building a 1 megawatt reactor, it's probably more than 10 million to build that thing.
100%.
In fact, remember we were looking at that really small one that was like 40K, and their estimate to build one of those was like $15 million.
Yeah,
with just 40 kilowatts.
No, and those when we look at them like that, that's specific application. I mean, you're competing against other options at that point, not competing against the market itself. And like what they're talking there in like the Permian Basin and remote operations, like that's different because it's that or build 200 miles of transmission line. So all of a sudden your cost parameters start to get really, really different than just plain old build it and play the market on it.
Yeah, no, it's 2.9 to 10. Yeah, I think that eventually we're going to see that lower amount, you know, especially when you start talking 100 megawatts and bigger. But grid modeling shows SMRs only become competitive in ERCOT. Now, the thing is, Texas is competitive, right? So they have what, over 100 power companies? You know, it's something, you know, whereas everywhere else it's a monopoly.
They have retail choice. I mean, they have all kinds of different options in Texas.
Yeah, it's the only state where energy isn't a monopoly. So it's going to be super price competitive there. So these numbers, when we talk about Texas, this doesn't necessarily apply to the rest of the United States, and especially doesn't apply to the world, you know, but it definitely applies here. But without major cost reductions through regulatory reform, construction efficiency, or financial tools, nuclear may not be cost competitive in Texas before 2040. Data centers help solve this by signing long-term power purchase agreements at premium prices. The widespread grid deployment faces economic headwinds. Licensing also takes 18 plus months, even at its fastest pace. You know, one of the things when we talk about fusion, one of their arguments is they have almost, they're regulated under like medical isotopes. Okay. So they're not regulated under the same thing as a fission reactor. They're regulated completely different, just because they're the hottest place in the universe when they actually have a reaction.
When it actually goes.
Yeah, when it actually goes. That's irrelevant. You know, it's just so crazy to think about, you know, 70 million degrees hottest place in the universe for
right in that little lab there for a split second.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a couple of things on that. One, we're going to see that naturally happen as more and more people get into this space. It's true. It's EVs. I mean, where we see it happen, the more and more people get in, the more effective manufacturing and production gets. And one thing this administration is doing and is focused on is that 18-month licensing and registration period. I mean, they basically come out and said, we want to shorten that as much as possible. Like we want to encourage these things to happen. So they're going to try to get rid of as much of that bureaucracy as possible. Now, I don't think 18 months of this in 2026 doesn't matter. If we're talking SMR, I mean, it's going to be years before you're ready for that anyway. But when you get there, maybe it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, but it's great to see that Texas is taking such an initiative in this space. But Texas is where all the data centers are going because it's easier to get their licensing for the data centers. It's easier for them to get something done with energy.
Yep.
And I'm sure, we've talked before about all these solar projects that have been built and other clean energy projects. And after they're done, they have to wait years to get connected to the grid because of bureaucratic challenges. We've had at least 100 of them go bankrupt.
While they're just sitting there waiting.
Well, they're just sitting there waiting because they never could have any revenue because the government didn't do their part. And Texas has kind of taken the opposite approach. And I guess that's why a lot of these people are going there. But a lot of them are paying and having their own, gas burners, their own solar. They're setting up their own microgrids. And
Texas has capacity at this point. In certain places on the grid, especially closer to the wind, there are capacity opportunities in Texas. It's about the last place left, and they're going really fast. There's not much of it left, but but they have opened up the door for people, and we call it in the industry like bring your own generation. If you can solve your own problem, go ahead.
Yeah, don't wait on the government.
Mm-hmm.
BYOG stands out for like bring your own government, though. Sounds like. All right. European Union launches a 75 billion euro clean energy strategy. On March 10th, which was yesterday, the European Commission adopted a new clean energy investment strategy designed to de-risk projects and attract private capital. Backed by European Investment Bank, the initiative specifically highlights support for small modular nuclear reactors and a 500 million euro pilot for energy efficiency as a service models to modernize the grid. Mm-hmm. I've never heard that term, energy efficiency as a service. I don't even know if I want to try to pronounce it as an acronym, but it can only be worse if the third letter was a T. But because it's EAA.
That's very funny.
I don't know. Have you heard anything about this concept of energy?
Yeah, we have it. It's in development. FERC Order 2222, which basically opens up the market to aggregation of those as smaller things. But it's also in the different markets and power pools we have, you can bid those in. Energy efficiency as demand reduction or like direct demand reduction and demand side management. I mean, those are biddable things that you can put into the market and putting that out there. So it's like they call it like the ESCO model, like energy service companies. So it's a whole defined government thing you can go out and do. So like a government federal office will come out and say, we want this building to become more efficient. Here's the ESCO playbook. Companies come out and do energy efficiency as a service.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a big deal stateside.
Okay. So here's the a real non-newsworthy article. Lucid Gravity adds smartphone integration via over-the-air software update. So apparently, while a whole bunch of other car manufacturers are going away from Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, Lucid's embracing it, and they're doubling down on the features standard for all new Gravity and Air models. Because a whole bunch of your car companies have now decided they're going to drop those.
Really?
Go to their own in-house thing. Yeah, it's like GM and Ford.
Really? I hadn't heard that. That's so disappointing.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
just
mean,
it just works right now in between
right.
vehicles, inter-vehicle operation. It operates the same way. It's easy. It just don't don't go break it.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Apple CarPlay is very nice when it
It's just
works.
it works, and it works the same in every vehicle. Like if you want to switch to CarPlay mode, yep.
Yeah.
Hey, like yeah.
All right. Used EV market hits a tipping point. Reuters report today highlights a massive surge in the U.S. pre-owned EV market. Rapid battery advances and the fading of new car federal incentives have pushed EV prices closer to the gasoline counterparts. The price gap narrowed to approximately $1,300 in January. This shift is turning the secondary market into the primary entry point for buyers who were previously priced out. So the average used EV sale is only $1,300 more than the average gas
Combustion.
car. Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting statistic. Like I was telling you, I've seen you can pick up used Jaguars and Audis for under 25,000 now,
Mhm.
and that just seems ridiculous because you think about those are brands that aren't known for reliability, right? Like you're supposed to get rid of them before 50,000 miles, and that's not the case with an EV because you've already gotten rid of most of the bad things. Of course, when you have a lot of little luxury features like door sensor and all these things, those things can all fail. They
It's
absolutely will.
all
They're going to be expensive to fix.
yeah. It's all stuff that can break. All modern vehicles, little toys. Yeah, things that
I
break.
remember one time, some stupid door sensor in one of my passenger doors in one of my vehicles went out, and once a minute, this alarm would go off in the car, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there's a door open. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of like that. And oh my God, what a freakish thing! It was so annoying. I mean, I got it in the next day because it was
yeah.
critical, but it's like, damn, it's like there needs to be a way to disable that noise.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, on a funny note, I recently was on a vacation with one of my aunts, and she refuses to believe that she's deaf. Okay, and refuses to get hearing aids. So her cell phone ringer is on absolute max
As
volume.
loud as it goes.
Yeah, when it would go off, she's just like, somebody's phone's ringing. It's like, well, I mean, the neighbors, the people down the street, everybody can hear it. It's obviously it's your phone. If nobody else would ever turn their phone that loud, you know. I was trying to suggest she get a new iPhone with the new AirPod Pro 3s, that have the hearing aid function.
It's a cool feature where it integrates to your hearing aid and a lot of those. I mean, it's really neat what some of that does.
Yeah, I've thought about getting that for the language interpretation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
cool to see.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's really cool tech.
Mhm.
Okay, here's one that I kind of was surprised about: green hydrogen milestone in Wales. So, a company called Trafigura's Morgan Energy reached a final investment decision today for a 20 megawatt green hydrogen project in Milford Haven, Wales, built on the site of a former oil refinery. So we know they have energy hookups there, right? It is one of the first in the UK to reach this stage under the new low carbon hydrogen standard. Construction begins later this year with a focus on decarbonizing heavy industry and port operations. Yeah, we can always talk about the economics. I'm really curious about how bad the economics of that whole project are. I'm starting, like I said, I've seen recently some hydrogen ideas that defy the traditional hydrogen economics because they're producing the hydrogen where it's being utilized. But and in this case, if they're building it at the port, there isn't going to be a lot of transportation and infrastructure costs. I'm still curious how that math works out. If it's only 10% more expensive than diesel and bunker fuel to produce the same energy output, it's going to burn cleaner.
Yeah. No,
And
there's the
probably
extra
worthwhile.
benefits. You've got some insulation against, fuel volatility prices. There is something there, but boy, I'm with you. Show the more out of curiosity. Let me see. Like, I want to see how that pencils out. and how everything ends up working out with that.
Well, and I guess it's domestic fuel production, right? Like
That's
I always
true.
tell people, it's like, an EV burns 100% American-made electricity.
There you go. There.
It's like what could be more American than that? You drive in
Well, I don't know what the energy output of
Tesla with American-made electricity.
But maybe 20 megawatts is a big deal in Wales. Like that could be a big chunk of it.
It could be. It could be. It's so funny though how that sounds small compared to some of these other things we keep talking about. I mean, energy usage has just gotten out of control.
20 megawatts would be small for a production facility. You know what I mean? Like that's I don't know. Like that. Yeah. Well, we'll see how they do.
A coal plant, you probably wouldn't do smaller than 400 megawatts, right?
That'd be any more. That'd be pretty small too. I mean, if we were going to build one, yeah, I think if it was going to be me, I would go quite a bit bigger than that.
Like a gigawatt.
Yeah, I'd try to.
Yeah. I mean that's a big change when you're talking 50x.
Yeah.
From that. But when I've been talking to people about the waste to energy size, one of the investment bankers I deal with, he suggests that you do it just in 10 megawatt tranches, and you might build 40 facilities over some geographic area, but you just keep doing 10 megawatts at each trash intake location and do it there, because it just seems so hard to look at these ideas. I mean, I see people trying to do 100 megawatt projects. I'll tell you, the levelized cost of energy on that stuff is quite fascinating, because it's actually pretty cheap to do here in the Midwest. But the number in Hawaii was almost double, and the number to do it in Puerto Rico was triple what it cost to do in the Midwest. But Puerto Rico, on the flip side, has a whole bunch of like financial incentives for doing it,
or collecting
all that cost back to closer to the Midwest price. So kind of fascinating. All right, we'll get some Louisiana news. $1.4 billion sustainable fuel facility in Louisiana. Southern Energy Renewables announced a flagship project in St. Charles Parish just today. The $1.4 billion facility will produce green methanol and sustainable aviation fuel using biomass to fuels technology combined with carbon capture. It's a major win for the hard-to-abate sectors like aviation and shipping. Now, biomass to fuels. I'm assuming, would that be...
But probably not ethanol down there. I mean, so I don't know what they're...
Yeah. Well, a lot of your biofuels are made from various wood chips. And I know when I've looked at things in that space, I've seen some argument. There's some trees that like grow in South America that reach maturity in 7 years. Whereas I think pine trees and things like that take like 14 to 18 years, different things like that. So it's sustainable. It's just this whole idea of converting wood chips to fuel. It's like, well, you're cutting down forests, but on the flip side, there's all these places where that's what they do. They cut, there's all these big companies in the United States. I think it's Weyerhaeuser and International Paper. They have these huge forests, and every year they cut down 5% of those forests, and they just keep cycling,
replanting, and just
around,
make their way around.
And it's a miracle. Trees keep growing there.
Just keeps coming back.
Yeah, and
they never learned their lesson.
Yeah, and they keep growing back like weeds.
Well, I guess they said in that article methanol, right? So I guess that is wood alcohol.
Is it? Yeah,
it is. That's the one that makes you go blind when people make it in, bathtub liquor, like the methanol. I think that's the part that makes you go blind.
Important safety tip, folks.
Yeah,
don't
just
make
all you kids out there
alcohol and drink it.
Bootlegging.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So, human activity is making the oceans noisier, and a new research shows wind farm noise can stress, disorient, or impair fish. Okay. A Dutch PhD researcher measured fish responses at North Sea wind farms, focusing on pelagic species like herring, sprat, and mackerel. Her work aims to identify thresholds and mitigation strategies to reduce harm as offshore wind expands. Now, I've always wondered, you hear that stuff. It's like the wind farms are hurting the whales or something like that. But it's apparently deafening some of these fish. And some of it, some of the research is on porpoises and their prey, which is the herring, sprat, and mackerel. Wind farms produce noise both during construction and once in operation. The piling causes intense noise, whereas operational wind farms emit a more constant, subdued sound. It might be possible to scare the animals away before piling starts by playing non-harmful sounds.
I'm sitting here smiling to myself because everything they've said so far, like I don't think I needed to do a research paper to make those statements. Construction makes noise. Like, yes, it does.
For some reason, when they're doing the piling to put in the wind towers, the fish don't swim away.
They just sit there.
They just hang out. Maybe fish are stupid. News at 11. I don't know. We've established that whales and dolphins and things like that seem to be fairly intelligent, but I just don't know about normal fish.
I agree with everything they're saying. I'm sure it makes noise. I'm sure it's disturbing, and all of those. But do they give an implication of any of that?
So oddly, it makes the porpoises fat, apparently. So what happens is because the other fish become even dumber, they don't realize the porpoise is there to eat them, and so it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for the porpoises.
So
they didn't actually say that. That part, they didn't say that the porpoises are getting fat. I said that.
Okay, I was gonna say, it was tongue-in-cheek enough. Like that could have been in there because otherwise I haven't caught the implication yet. Like
no, you're not allowed to fat shame porpoises. Okay.
They're sensitive.
Or whales. Okay. So don't ever insinuate that a whale is fat. Okay. You'd really rattle some feathers there if you did. Anyways, that is all we've got for today. We've had some interesting comments in the chat. We didn't post them. We could have, but I don't even know what they're talking about half the time. But they probably don't know what we're talking about either. So, but we appreciate everybody watching today. There'll be no show Friday. I'll be back with Mike on Wednesday, Bill and I on Tuesday. Otherwise, folks, have a great rest of your week, and thanks for watching.